Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Internet Economics Podcast. Today we have, with 61 wins, 5 losses, 2 draws, and 48 wins by knockout, Termite Watkins.
Hey there, Jonathan. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. How about yourself? Where are you right now?
I am doing fantastic. I'm in Crosby, Texas at my house, and that's where I live, Crosby, Texas, which is right outside of Houston. And it's so good to be on here with you.
Great to have you on here. So, for those of you who don't know who Termite Watkins is, he is a pro boxer, formerly retired, 7-figure to I believe 8-figure business owner from his pest control company, and he actually has a movie coming out about him as well, which I'll kind of let you give the 101 here, Termite.
Okay. In 2003, I went to the country of Iraq to support our country in pest control. And I'm a Christian, and I felt like God was calling me to go to Iraq. I went. That was the way I could go, was through pest control. And but I am a former fighter. While I was in Iraq, I had a run-in with the general, and with no disrespect to him, because I actually love the man, but he cursed me. I don't allow people to curse me, or as we say here in Texas, cuss me. And anyway, I don't allow people to cuss me, and I ask him not to cuss me. And anyway, so we got several stories we'll talk about today, and I'm really excited about the one with pest control because I was born and raised in the pest control industry from day one.
Yep. So, how many years is that total that you've been in the pest control industry?
Well, I'm such a young guy. It's going on 67 years. I'm 66 right now, and so I've got a lot of experience. And I was riding on trucks when I was 3, 4 years old. Back then you could do that. And by the time I was 5 or 6 years old, I was crawling under houses and, with my grandpa or with my dad or with my uncle to do termite inspections. And anyway, I love the pest control industry. I think it's one of the finest industries ever invented, ever existed, is pest control. If you're out there, walk proud. I claim to be still in pest control. I always will be.
So tell us, how did you get the name Termite to begin with?
All right. So, my dad had a company called Champion Exterminating. And the day that I was born, a guy that worked for him named Leon started calling me Termite. And my brother was 2.5. His daughter was 3. They could say termite. And it just caught on. And so, literally, from the day I was born, I was called termite. And then it got to a point where by the time I was in high school, that's all anybody knew me as. It's funny, I was graduating from high school, and when they got down to my name, my real name is Maurice Lynn. And the principal looked at it. He goes, "Oh, this is termite," and never even said Maurice. It said Termite Watkins. And so that's all I've been called by. That's all I know. And that's, still that, and I'm proud of it.
Okay, and then what kind of came first in your life? Was it more of the boxing career, or was it more of the pest control, or what's the chronological order here of how these things took place?
Great question. So the order of course, I was born, then called termite. Family was already in the pest control business. The side I didn't tell you is my dad was a gangster at the time, a real one, and but he come to know Christ. He gave his heart to God, and he was changing his ways. But me at 10 years old, I wasn't changing my ways. I started trying to follow in his footsteps. So somebody told him, "Billy, why don't you get him involved in boxing?"
Mhm.
And so he did, and that's the story in itself. If we have time, we'll tell that.
Mhm.
But he got me involved in boxing, and
Mhm.
when I started, I was probably the most likely not to succeed. I mean,
Mhm.
I couldn't walk, talk, and chew gum at the same time. But
Mhm.
he got me a good coach and a good teacher and a
Mhm.
good communicator. And I started off with getting my tail kicked the first 4 times I put gloves on, and
Mhm.
sparring and all that. And then I had my first fight, got my tail kicked.
Mhm.
Second fight, I barely won, but
Mhm.
victory's sweet. If anybody out there's got employees, remember, help them be victorious, because victory is sweet and it just sets a mind set on people that's incredible. Help your people be victorious. So um, at the age of 10, he got me involved in boxing, and it
Mhm.
turned my life around. I was at 10 years old. I was already stealing. I was already drinking. I was already
Mhm.
smoking. Me and my pastor
Mhm.
today, I would steal the cigars, and me and him would smoke them at 10 years old. And but the boxing literally changed my life. And so I'm really big on boxing. And because of that reason, it changing my life so much, I have a boxing gym in Texas, in Houston, Texas, right now, that helps get kids off the street. So so born in pest control,
Mhm.
10 years old, I got involved in boxing,
Mhm.
and was really, I really became good. My dad got me a good coach. I become a
Mhm.
good student, a good listener. Uh,
Mhm.
and when I first started, I got my tail kicked 4 or 5 times right in a row. When I got a
Mhm.
good coach, I went 65 wins without losing, which is
Mhm.
unheard of, to
Mhm.
get 65 straight wins, especially as a young guy and as a young teenager. At 16 years old, I won nationals. I was the first in history to win nationals. I mean, I was the best in the nation. And
Mhm.
then by doing that, I made the USA team. Now,
Mhm.
what that means is there's 5 teams. There's 5 USA teams. They're all
Mhm.
Olympic teams.
Mhm.
My team, I'm real proud of this. Me and Sugar Ray Leonard,
Mhm.
who everybody knows, gold medalist, 4-time, 5-time world champion. Me and him were roommates, along with Howard Davis, who also won a gold medal. So we had a
Mhm.
great team that year, and we got great by working hard, just like
Mhm.
work, just like pest control. You get great by studying, by performing, by doing
Mhm.
it over and over and over, with the desire to be the best. And so made the USA team, traveled around the world: Romania, Italy, Germany, Yugoslavia, New York, New Jersey, all the different places. But I took a stand when I was 16 against an organization in boxing. It's out, so I won't even, it don't even deserve to be mentioned. But they were
Mhm.
taking money from amateur boxing. And so we didn't even have the money to go to the state tournament, national tournaments, junior Olympics, senior Olympics, whatever. Didn't have the money to. And so I protested. Because of that protest, me and another guy named Barry Yates, today, that particular, I'll tell you what it was. It was the AAU. Not knocking it. AAU is great. Our part was not good. People were
Mhm.
bad in our part. AAU is a good organization, but because of the stance that me and Barry H took, USA Boxing came in, AAU went out, and USA Boxing is still in today. But I turned pro at 17, had the record that you're talking about.
Mhm.
24 years old, fought for the world championship.
Mhm.
When Ali fought Holmes, it was a double main event, and
Mhm.
I had the other main event. Went 15 rounds, lost a decision. I don't know what was wrong with those judges.
Mhm.
Them judges, it was their fault. and uh, they didn't see the same fight that I did. But
Mhm.
anyway, I retired, and the rest is history, and we can go into it in a minute.
Okay, so you kind of were born into the pest control business, got started at boxing at around 10 years old, worked your way up from there until 24 years old, where you made it to the championship. And then from 24 onward, is that kind of when you lean more into pest control, or what kind of came next thereafter?
I've got to be honest. Excuse me.
Mhm.
You know, I'm telling you all the good stuff. I'm going to tell you the bad stuff too, because I
Mhm.
hope it helps somebody. There may
Mhm.
be somebody listening that this will touch. At 24 years old, after I fought for the world championship, I was running
Mhm.
around with all my quote celebrity friends, which are just they're normal people.
Mhm.
But I got introduced to cocaine, and for about a 5 year period, I was
Mhm.
messed up on cocaine. So when I
Mhm.
should have been fighting for another world title fight, I was messed
Mhm.
up, and I got into drinking and all that, and I gave it up at 31, at 30 years old, and never done it again. And
Mhm.
so to all of my good stuff, there's the bad side. But the
Mhm.
good side of that, if there's somebody out there that's got a problem, you can quit. You can, I'll help you. You can get in touch with
Mhm.
me at Termite Watkins at yahoo.com, and I'll help
Mhm.
you. And then I had a chance in 2003 to go
Mhm.
to the help our country go to Iraq, and I killed bugs for our U.S. Military. But
Mhm.
again, I took a stand against a general, and the general found out that I was a former professional fighter. Word
Mhm.
spread of my relationship with the Iraqi people, which was
Mhm.
great, and the
Mhm.
military, and this went all the way up to President Bush. And
Mhm.
next thing you know, I got challenged
Mhm.
from all the way up to Bush, all the way down to the general, to get the country of Iraq to the Olympics. And so in 2004, the Olympics were in Greece, and I was blessed to be the leader of a team. I don't want to say I did it, it was a team. We had
So,
a great
so to
team.
just make sure that we're not missing any part of the timeline really quick. So 31 years old, got back up on your feet. Can we just kind of, take it back a few inches here? When were you able to get into the military, and then how did you establish that opportunity to then kill bugs for the military?
Great question. So, when I was over in Iraq, first
Mhm.
of all, I heard they were needing pest control people, and that they could
Mhm.
not get pest control people to go and kill the
Mhm.
bugs for the military.
Mhm.
I believe it was a calling of God, and never had it before, never had it since. I
Mhm.
answered the call. I went. There's a
Mhm.
story in it on how I got there, which we
Mhm.
can do this at another time. It's pretty cool. I was actually turned down 3 times before I
To
ever got
go.
to
So
Iraq.
okay,
And
so when you mentioned that that you heard about it, what was the source that you were hearing it from? Did you have a friend in the military, or was it like a job board, or what did that really look like for the like because the reason why I'm presenting this is what there's a pest control person out there that's looking for opportunity, but doesn't really know where to find that opportunity.
I I had a friend of mine that had he was real familiar with the military. And one
Mhm.
night, well, actually, it was his son dating my daughter. And one night
Mhm.
he called me and said, "Hey, do you still have your pest control license?" I said, "I
Mhm.
do. Why do you ask?"
Mhm.
At this time, I'm selling cars. I'd gotten out of
Mhm.
the pest control. And
Mhm.
I was always involved in it, but we had a lot of family, and it was
Mhm.
too much family. And so I
Mhm.
stepped out. I was selling cars, coming home one night from selling
Mhm.
cars, and a friend of mine called me and said, "Do you still have your license?" I said, "I do." I said, "Why?" He said, "Our
Mhm.
military is looking for pest control people, and they can't get anybody to go." And
Mhm.
so he had me a contact number. And I called and said, I'm your man. And so, um, to my knowledge, I could be wrong. Okay. But to my knowledge, I was the first pest control person in Iraq. But
Mhm.
later, other ones come. There was another supervisor that was pest control, but he was in
Mhm.
Kuwait. So he
Mhm.
wasn't in Iraq. Um, but I found out, that and I found out that they needed people, and so I
Mhm.
answered the call. But it was kind of like it fell out of my lap, and
Mhm.
I don't even know where to tell people to call.
Mhm.
But you could call. Stay in touch with your local pest control board. That would be
Mhm.
the way to go. They should be able to
Okay,
tell you.
that's really good advice for someone that hasn't really done anything before in the industry. And I think you bring a lot of insight to new type of marketing strategies. I think a lot of pest control companies think that they can only be within their certain area and they need to run ads to just do residential homes, where there's all these other areas of opportunity also in pest control, whether it be through the military or maybe other private organizations that people really haven't thought about. And I think maybe there's even something more to go for pest control and going where people don't want to go, right? People traditionally don't want to do pest control because maybe they don't like bugs or maybe it's a gross area. I think there's a lot of opportunity in doing pest control where other people just don't really want to be, and that's kind of where it sounds like you found a lot of your opportunity.
Yeah. One of the things, find out where people are working overseas. Um, KBR, Kellogg, Brown and Root.
Mm-hmm.
KBR, they've always got jobs going overseas. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they, I was just contacted yesterday about
Mm-hmm.
possibly going back overseas and heading a group of people. And because I know the Iraqi people, and there's going to be a pest control person in that if we go. And so stay in touch with your government. I think you can look under government and pest control,
Mm-hmm.
and it will actually show you Djibouti, Africa. That's where I wanted to go first. They've
Mm-hmm.
always got pest control people going with KBR and
Mm-hmm.
Halliburton and some of these other. Find a company that does work overseas, and they will normally need a pest control person, because in the pest control industry, if all you fellow brothers in the pest control industry, you know that wherever we carry food, wherever we carry stuff, we're going to carry roaches, we're going to carry rats, mice, and so that's
Mm-hmm.
how they get put overseas. We transport them. We
Mm-hmm.
transport them over there. Now, in Iraq, we transport. You've got thousands of troops going, thousands of workers going, and everybody's bringing their suitcases. In your suitcases, you're gonna there's gonna be roaches or mice or something that's gonna migrate with you. Then you get over
Mm-hmm.
there and you get into a camp, and they're in the camp. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what happens is that when you bring a mice or a rodent overseas, what does that attract? Snakes, spiders. You've got big spiders over camel spiders
Mm-hmm.
that like mice, and so just be creative. I'm gonna test you guys. Get creative. Dig in your computer. Who works overseas? There's all kinds of companies that work overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Almost all of them are going to need pest control at some time, and at some point in time.
And I think you mentioned two really big things here. Is one, understanding the Afghanistan people and or Afghani people, and then the second thing is maybe more of the pricing standpoint is there a larger profit to be made if you go overseas? One, and then why is it important to understand the local people there and the local culture?
Um, the money is tremendous. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know what it is right now, but it would be absolute. I know what it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you were happy to make 20 or 30,000, 40,000 a year as a pest control technician. I could go overseas and make 100, 120,000 tax free.
Wow,
And
so that was 6 times more. So $20,000, $30,000. What was that? 20 years ago is probably $60,000 today about. And that'd be about, if you multiply that, 120 times two, maybe around the $250,000. That's a big gap in payment being overseas versus being just native in America.
yeah,
Hmm.
and you got to be prepared because it's time away from your family. It's time away from your spouse, your kids. Um,
Hmm.
and I was talking to my son-in-law about it because we may be going to Iraq for some things. Uh,
Hmm.
but but you got to weigh it out. If I go to Iraq, I can make all this money and pay all my debts off, and I can
Hmm.
save money and come back and be debt free. It's pretty cool. Pretty
And
cool.
why it's important to understand the culture of the people. You mentioned that they wanted you to come back because you understood the people. Why is that such an important role?
Well, this is another thing. A company has contacted me because I have a pretty good relationship with the Iraqi people,
Hmm.
and they're going over there to do some bunch of work, hundreds
Hmm.
of millions. It may even be in the billions of
Hmm.
work. So I'm going a different role this time. I'm kind of going. If it goes through, I'll go kind of as a spokesperson
Hmm.
representing the USA,
Hmm.
and because I do have a relationship, I've got an interpreter that I stay in touch with till
Hmm.
today, and so that's what I would go for. I would just kind of be a peacekeeper and
Hmm.
kind of the
But to,
representative that's been already been there and done that.
so to further just clarify the question is, why is it important to understand the culture when going rather than just not understanding the culture at all and then going? Why is that a crucial role for when they're searching for someone that have someone that already has experience in the area? Is it do I'm just kind of curious on that.
It's important to know
Mhm.
their culture because there's some things that, and I'm not going to go into detail in case there's people out there listening. I don't want it
Mhm. Mhm.
misconstrued. But
Mhm.
if you point your feet a certain way at
Mhm.
people, it's considered an insult over there. So you got
Okay.
to know not to bend over and point your feet at people. It seems silly to us. Um,
Mhm.
if you um, are over there, the sheik, they'll
Mhm.
greet you with a kiss. All
Mhm.
right. I greet them back with a kiss. And it's not like a
Mhm.
kiss on the lips, it's a kiss on this cheek, and then this cheek. But that
Mhm.
is a bond between them. That's a respect. And then
Mhm.
you don't shake hands with your left hand.
Mhm.
I won't
Okay.
go into that because it's gross. You use
No, that's fine. I understand the
you know
point.
where
So
I'm
just to
going.
clarify, just to clarify for the audience, it's important to understand the culture because when you are there, it makes your work more efficient, and then it could actually end up costing this private company money if your work isn't being done efficiently while you're there. And especially if you're having maybe arguments breaking out, not even on purpose, just because there's a cultural unalignment, that could definitely be a cause that could cause it to be more costly, not just for you, but also your company and then also the wherever you're working. So
That's
that's the importance of learning the culture wherever you go. Okay.
right. Gotta learn
So,
their culture. Hmm.
and now, okay, so we have kind of the starting off there. So then you mentioned you went over to Afghanistan the first time, did a
Iraq,
really good job
Iraq.
there. My bad, Iraq. My apologies. You went over to Iraq the first time and did a really good job there, and then you're able to meet the president.
Um,
Mhm.
I'm not sure what the question is, but the president. I was actually asked to go to the White House. I didn't
Mhm.
go because I was training the Iraqi athletes, and if I would have went, my boxer would have probably gotten killed. All right, because
Mhm.
that's when the war was going on, and so two times I had to turn the president down, and
Mhm.
I wish I could have, but um, so back to the culture, and then we'll go to whatever question you want. It's
Mhm.
critical that you know their culture.
Mhm.
You can't just walk up to the women there. You can't just walk
Mhm.
up to them and start talking to them.
Mhm.
That's an insult to a husband over there, and you
Mhm.
may get her hurt, or you may get hurt when you do that.
Mhm.
You can't carry alcohol over there. They might put you under the prison just for alcohol, even though they all drink it. And but
Mhm.
if you carry it, that's a different thing. So go ahead and shoot away with the questions.
No, so earlier I was just talking about the chronological order. So you said that you went over to Iraq, and then you said that I guess you were invited to the White House, and then yeah, I guess just kind of try to go through the chronological order again of how things were playing out. So what happened in Iraq, and then what kind of happened from there?
So I was challenged to get the country of Iraq to the Olympics
Mm-hmm.
while I was there. So I left the
Mm-hmm.
pest control and started
Mm-hmm.
training fighters, um, and it was quite different over there versus here. I had to walk with
Mm-hmm.
3 and 4 machine guns around me over there because there was a
Mm-hmm.
war going on. But we managed to get the fighters.
Mm-hmm.
We did make it through wild card to the
Mm-hmm.
Olympics. I got to take one fighter, but I got to take the soccer team and weightlifters and swimmers and everybody else. Um, they didn't do real good in the Olympics, but it wasn't about doing good at that point. It was that they were there. Um, now, since then, before I ever came home from Iraq, we
Mm-hmm.
were contacted from Hollywood and different people about doing a movie on my story. I
Mm-hmm.
turned people down for 17 years, something like that, 16,
Mm-hmm.
17, 18 years, whatever it was, until um, because they wanted to add things to it that weren't in there. They wanted to add filthy scenes,
Mm-hmm.
gay scenes, filthy scenes. Um, they wanted to make one particular general a bad guy, and he wasn't. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he was great to me. And so I took a
Mm-hmm.
stand. And so it's gotten delayed, and but things are
Mm-hmm.
going forward. Well, I say they're going forward. They just got delayed again because there's a writer's strike and director strike, a writer and a director strike. But
Mm-hmm.
we're going forward. We're waiting for this strike to get over, and hopefully things will get going to where we can um, get back in action on the movie. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then bringing me up to the order, I
Mm-hmm.
went back into business development. I represent a couple of different, well, let me back up. I was in business development for a crane company, and
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people in the Texas, Gulf Coast, USA,
Mm-hmm.
and so I, but I was rocking along good. And then 3 years ago, I got COVID. All right. I was one of the first ones to get it. And I went on the ventilator for about 18 days. And I was in the hospital. It was either 30 or 35 days, something like that. Got out,
Mm-hmm.
had to learn how to walk again. My
Mm-hmm.
company I was with had to let me go because they were hurting. After about 8 months of getting back on my feet, I started working again. I said, what am I going to do? So I went in business for myself and I represent
Mm-hmm.
company. I'm gonna put a plug in for me if you don't mind. I represent
Yeah, you're
companies.
fine.
So if there's a company out there that there's a door you're wanting to get into, or you need a good representative, Termite Watkins at yahoo.com. Termite Watkins at yahoo.com. But anyway, Jonathan, that's what I'm doing today. I represent
Mm-hmm.
companies. I do have my boxing gym. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of professional fighters that I manage. I've got trainers that train them now. I train the trainers. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
me. Um,
Hey.
If you can think
Yeah,
of
great.
another
And
good,
sorry.
no, I was just going to say if there's something else you want to ask me, shoot away.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love the story here, kind of, and it's almost really a come up story, kind of how you start off, 10 years old, kind of, not the roughest life, but you kind of work the bugs out later, no, no pun intended, and now you're actually having a movie made about you. So I love the 101 there. And I guess maybe we can go into more of the business development here. Is how has things in the pest control industry changed over the years? Because you kind of saw it from 60 some years ago versus today. What has been the main game changers in terms of the technology, and then what has been the major changes, and how do you get business?
Great question, man. You spent some time on these questions. Good job. Um, so how's it changed? Well, it's changed to where um, 50 years ago, 55, 60 years ago, I can remember when they would use chlordane. All right. And chlordane was for termites. And I can remember they'd stick their hand in it and stir it around. All right. And today you don't do that. They've got agitators and, they've got things that mix up the chemicals for you. So we went from there. We've went from hand tanks to aerosols to cracking crevices to glues to ointments to baits. I remember when there wasn't such thing as a bait, and uh, I really do. And speaking of the chlordane, they took it off the market, and it was actually a safer chemical than our chemicals are today. And I've done lots of research. They took it off, but it lasted. It worked. It would last for termites. You could guarantee a house for 5 years on termites. Nowadays you can't. You do one. But but the way that we do the pest control has changed. We use a lot of aerosols and ointments and I say ointments, glues and baits and things like that, powders. Um, Back when my family first started, my dad was in it, you know, what you can imagine, 66, almost 67 years ago, it was a hand tank. And you just poured some stuff in it, and hopefully you got a couple of ounces. You may have got 6 or 8 ounces too much, but it was okay. And so the chemicals have all changed. Our method of doing them has changed. Um, Rodents. Back then, he used it was like a single bait, and then used traps. Today you got glue boards. You've got electronic traps that sling the mice into a thing. So everything's has advanced as far as where it was back then. I do want to talk about the way that we get business today. It's changed, but I think people are really missing out on something that didn't have to change. It's changed where we do a lot of internet and computer, and you can you can swap hundreds of thousands of hit people, 100,000 people, one push of a button, but there's still nothing like um, putting out. If you're wanting a certain area, go out and put flyers out. We used to do flyers. We call it door knocking. Hello, ma'am. My name is Termite Watkins. I was, 6, 8, 10 years old. My name is Termite Watkins. We're in a sales contest. And, and we would sell roach jobs at 6 or 7 years old. And so that's changed.
I think you made definitely a great point there that I'm more on the digital side, as you know, and I can definitely tell you a lot of the really successful companies, they kind of do a mixture of everything where they'll run some ads digitally in a certain area for 1 month while also hitting them with flyers, and it's like this almost hybrid personalized approach. And they'll also try to not just get them with flyers, postcards, and they'll even try to beat them on price. And then what they really go for at that point is kind of the logistics of it, where they'll say, okay, well, if we can get this entire area just on Mondays, well, we'll make money back from them for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, because we cannot just beat them on price, but quality and everything else under the sun.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing that a lot even with myself right now, that most sales are being made through Bing and Google ads, because when people need, any type of pest control, it's usually when they're freaking out, right? And people don't need to read articles online and find out which pest control company is the best. People usually, type in pest control near me, and they call the first one saying, can you get here as quickly as possible and kill these bugs? So I definitely think that's, at least on the digital side coming from me, that's definitely a huge game changer, is really only need to, for the majority of your business will just rely on Google and Bing ads for a pest control company.
You said a key word, which I think is the best thing of what we said today, is quality. If a company can give quality work, there's nothing like quality work that speaks volumes. Because if you do quality work, the people will be your best representative. I'm going to tell a little story. When I left the pest control to go in the car business. Everybody else was using flyers and digital and TV and this, that, and the other. And I went back to basics. Get out and meet people. So when you sit there in a car lot and you're having to wait for the people to come up, one day I just got smart and I said, you know what? And the pest control, it's the same thing that I'm fixing to tell you as it is for the car business. It's a numbers game. If I can talk to X amount of people or get my name in front of X amount of people, I'm going to get X amount of work. So here's what I did, and this is a good habit for pest control men to do, or men and women. I went out and I had a 25 contact a day goal that I was going to give 5 flyers out, 5 business cards, and I could go up into, I used to go buy gummy worms, $1 packages. And when I was in line, I'd tell the people, we got a big special going, and pass out cards. And so I made 25 contacts, either by phone call, by going out meeting them, by flyer. I made 25 contacts. And if you reach 25 people a day, and if you do that, I did it 6 days a week for 1 year, and I had so much business I couldn't do it. But I did. If you only do it 5 days a week, it's part of doing business. That's 125 contacts you made in a week. Think if you made 125 contacts in a week for pest control. What if you only got 2 or 3 jobs out of it? It's a numbers game. But then what gets exciting, if you do that in a month, that's 500 contacts in a month. When's the last time you personally contacted 500 people? And then you do that in a year.
Relationships, it's never done it face to face, so I'm all online right now, and I've always just done it online. Actually, that's how I reached out to you, right? I reached out to you through LinkedIn, strictly online. So I'm just in a whole different world where I only believe kind of in first almost introductions online. But it's very true. The online world is sometimes saturated in that sense, and you want them it's not saturated, the person right in front of you where there's no other people around.
I agree with you. The online is getting saturated, and it's kind of making a swing back. That the old ways of getting out, shaking a hand, looking at somebody, hello, my name is Termite Watkins, and who are you? And get to meet people. It's kind of making a swing, and you can't beat the internet. Let's face it, you can't. All right.
It's definitely broken up into almost 2 groups here. Is that there's one group of people that can almost pay to win, and those are the ones that can absolutely dominate the internet. And if you do have the funds, I mean, it really depends on, this is from my side again, on the population levels. So for all my clients, they're usually within cities of populations between 100 and 200,000. That's kind of like my sweet spot here. And if they are within those certain ramifications, Google ads, Bing ads work extremely well. But if you're in Miami, Florida, where there's, hundreds of thousands of dollars moving around, you have to be one of, sometimes one of the top companies to really get your money's worth.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're right on top of it. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, I know we're kind of running out of time here, but I guess last question is, what would you say to a pest control business trying to get to the next level?
Don't give up. And when people tell you no, that just means that you asked the wrong way. When I got the team to the Olympics, I was turned down 60 days straight. All right, 60
Mm-hmm.
days I was turned down. Don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
If I wouldn't have tried that 61st time, there would be no movie. There'd be no trip, going to the Olympics. Just don't give up. Don't ever give up, keep on. I
Mm-hmm.
call it swinging the bat. You got to swing the bat to hit the ball. If you swing the bat enough, you're going to hit a ball. I don't care if you're blindfolded. You'll eventually hit the
Mm-hmm.
ball. So don't ever give up. That's what I got to say to you.
I love that. I love that. The blind example is, as long as you keep swinging, even if it's on accident, you'll eventually hit it one time.
That's right.
So, anyways, everyone, thank you for watching. This is Termite Watkins. Make sure to watch his movie that's coming out, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much.
Man, it's been a pleasure.